Alright, so here's the notes for 8.6. 8.6 is solving rational equations. Rational equations are equations that contain one or more rational expressions. Weighted averages are a type of equation where, if you think about it, how your grade is calculated in my class. Find a weight mean a set of numbers in which elements that set or carry more importance or weight than others. Rational inequality is an inequality that contains one or more rational expressions. Excuse me. We will not be doing any inequalities, we'll just be solving equations. So what I've done is I've taken our notes, rewrote them out. There's different ways you can solve each problem. I do it by LCMs because it's easier for me to do LCMs. I also like to have the smallest numbers that I can work with in my brain. So I'm going to go left, middle, right, fractions. Sorry, my nose is running. Allergies are killing me. So with this, I have the first one of 7. I have x minus 3, and then I have a 56. Now, to find the LCM between these, you can rewrite 56 as 7 times 8, so that you know that 7 is already a part of 56. So with that, I know that x minus 3 has to be my equation, and then 7 is included in 56, so my number would be 56, or the first multiple that 7 and 56 both go into is 56. So my LCM is 56 x minus 3. Now, what I would do is I would say, okay, what is needed to make 7 become 56 x minus 3? I would need to take a times 8 times x minus 3. To make x minus 3 become the LCM, I would multiply it by 56. And to make 56 become the LCM, I would take times x minus 3. So what you do is you multiply, quote unquote, this LCM times each one of these, which I will, and the resulting answer of what I'm going to multiply is what is here. So what I like to do is, I don't do it this way, but I'm going to do it this way on this first one. X minus 3. 56 times x minus 3. This is 56 times x minus 3. And then over here we have 56 times x minus 3. Okay? And what we're doing is we're multiplying by the common denominator in order to cancel things out. I'm multiplying by the least common multiple because I don't want to have anything left over that is bigger numbers than what I want. So 56 cancels with 56. I'm left with what I needed to make 56 become the least common multiple. So that means I'm going to have, just lost my maroon pen. Lane, you need to be quieter, sweetie. 53 times that x minus 3 equals x minus 3 cancels with x minus 3. So I'm going to have 3 times 56 plus 7 cancels with 56 and leaves me an 8, which that 8 times x minus 3 is what is over here. So I'm going to have 4 times 8 times x minus 3. So the parts that I'm left with is what I needed to make a common denominator or least common multiple between these values. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute through. I'm going to do it in a few different steps. So 4 times 8 is 32. So that's going to be 32 times x minus 3. 3 times 56, excuse me, is 168 equals 53x. Negative 3 times 56 is a negative 168. 53. Nope, negative 3 times 53. Let's try that again. Negative 3 times 53 is a negative 159. Okay. And then 32 times x is 32x. 32 times negative 3 is a negative 96 plus 168 equals 53x minus 159. Excuse me. So I'm going to subtract. Trying to find pen colors I've not used yet. Minus 32x minus 32x plus 159 plus 159. So 53 minus 32 gives me 21x. Negative 96 plus 168 plus 159 gives me 231. Divide by 21, divide by 21. X equals 11. So now you should plug it back in. So I do it quickly. I always do it on my calculator, but I always write it out. So I do 4/7 plus 3 over 11 minus 3 equals 53 over 56. 11 is a possible solution because if that denominator, or my answer I solved for, would be a, come out to be 0, I would be divided by 0, which means it's a no solution. So in my calculator, I take 4 divided by 7 plus 3 divided by 8. I'm just going to type it that way because 11 minus 3 is 8. Hit enter, and then I take 53 divided by 56. They're the same thing, so I know that's my answer. So 1b, LCM. So I have my first, second. I know this purple is really kind of hard to see, but third. So with that, I'm going to write down, if it's divided by 1, it's 1. So I have 1. I have a 3. And I have a 2x plus 1. So out of 3 and 1, the first number that 1 and 3 both multiply into is 3. So I know my LCM is going to have a 3 in it. And then I also have this 2x plus 1. So on the orange one, I'm missing that 2x plus 1. On the first fraction, I'm missing a 3. And on the last fraction, I'm missing everything. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the first number is 3. The next one is 2x plus 1. And the last one is 3 times 2x plus 1. And I'm going to write down my original problem. Okay, so what I've done is I have shorthanded by finding what is going to be left over, or what I need to make the denominators the same. If I multiplied by the LCM, I've already proven up here what would be left over. It's what I need to get there. So what I allow you to do is I allow you just to shorthand it. Now, I've had students ask, can I just multiply each one by the common denominators, or what every denominator is, and then just cancel things out? You can. I just don't like to, because I rather make my life a little bit quicker by not having to cancel it out and write that out a million times. Pardon me. So it's up to you, 100%. I'm not going to fret one way or the other. So multiplying this out, I'm going to have 30 plus 8x plus 4 equals 2 times 3 is 6 times 2x plus 1. And then I'm going to have to redistribute that. So I'm going to get 12x plus 6 equals 8x plus 34 minus 8x minus 8x minus 6 minus 6. I know I wrote that in the not green, so I apologize about that, but I'll cancel out in green. 34 minus 6 is 28 equals 4x. Divide by 4. X equals 7. So in my denominator, if I plug 7 in here, I wouldn't get 0. But I am going to plug in and check still. So 10 divided by 2 times 7 plus 1 plus 4/3, does that equal 2? So this is really 10 over 15 plus 4/3 equals 2. And in my calculator, I know it's true because 10/3 is 10/15, sorry, is 2/3. So I know it works out, but I'm just going to leave it as the math. So 10 divided by 15, oops, if I can do that right the first time, plus 4/3 equals 2. So I checked it out and it works. So my answer is x equals 7. Alright, moving on to the next example. So what you have to do on this one is you got to factor everything. So I have x plus 3. I have x minus 2. And in the purple, I'm going to factor this one out. I'm going to write it over here, but then I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's factored. So when you factor this last denominator, if you notice, this has both of these parts. So what's the same? The same is x minus 2. And the same is x plus 3. And by doing what is the same between the two different numbers with this third one, I cover everything that's here. So I'm missing x plus 3, and I'm missing x minus 2. So if I took the LCM, or the least common denominator, times this fraction, the x plus 3's would cancel out, and I would be left with the x minus 2 on top. So I'm just going to write down the multiplication with x minus 2, x plus 3, and then on this one here, since my last fraction has everything, I don't need anything, so I don't touch it and don't write anything down. So these ones are really sweet and will be very much prevalent in your homework, but it's just kind of nice to know how to do it. So, oh, my coffee does not taste good today. 14 times x is 14x minus 28 plus 10, so taking a positive 10 times both of these, 10x plus 30 equals 122. Combining like terms, 14x and 10x is 24x. Negative 28 plus 30 is plus 2 equals 122. I know I didn't switch colors. I'm trying to remember everything I decided to do on the first page. Minus 2 minus 2. 24x equals 120 divided by 24. X equals 5. Now double check. What? Well, then get the egg out from underneath the couch from the bunny. I don't know why there'd be an egg under there. 14 over 5 plus 3 plus 10 over 5 minus 2 equals 122 over, if I plug that in, no, 5 squared plus 5 minus 6. Since this denominator here, x can't equal 2 or x can't equal negative 3, I'm good with my 5. So 14 over 8 plus 10 over 3, does that equal 122 over 5 squared plus 5 minus 6? So 5 squared is 25, plus 5 is 30, minus 6 is 24. So, plug into my calculator. 14 divided by 8 plus 10 divided by 3, 122 divided by 24. Get the same answer? No, I'm correct. Alright, next one. Amy, be nice to my papers. I have x plus 2. I have x minus 2. And I'm just going to go ahead and just factor this now. I'm going to put x minus 2 and x plus 2. If you look at the orange and the blue, I already have everything counted for here. So my LCM is this, or LCD. I'm missing x plus 2 on the middle, and I'm missing x minus 2 on the top. So I'm going to take x minus 2 times the left, x plus 2 times the middle, and then I don't have to times anything because everything would cancel out. 5 minus 3 equals 12. So distributing through, 5x minus 10, negative 3 times x is a negative 3x, negative 3 times 2 is a negative 6, equals 12. 5x minus 3x is 2x, negative 10 minus 6 is minus 16, equals 12. Plus 16, 2x equals 28, divided by 2, x equals 14. So now I'm just going to go plug that in and check it. So I'm going to put 5 over 14 plus 2 minus 3 over 14 minus 2 equals 12 over 14 squared minus 4. So that gives me 5 over 16 minus 3 over 12 equals 12 over... Lainey, gotta be quiet, please. 14 squared minus 4 is 192. So in my calculator, I'm going to take 5 divided by 16 minus 3 divided by 12, enter, and then take 12 divided by 192. They equal the same thing, so I know my answer. Alright, moving on to the next one. Okay, so for example E, I'm going to write down what I have. I have blue, orange, purple, so I have a 3, I have a 6x, and I have a 5x. So when you're doing LCMs of monomials, you need to take your exponents, or your variables first, and then what is your exponent? So you have an x, and then the highest exponent of it is a 1, so I have this. Then, when you're doing this, what are the multiples of 5, 6, and 3 that all three of them can go into? So one way you can do it is by taking and listing out the factors of the largest one. So 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. And then look at them and see where the numbers come in. So 3 goes into 6. So 3 will go into every single one of these multiples, which is great. But, so I got 6 and 3 covered, because 6 is the biggest, or the smallest multiple that 3 also goes into and 6 go into. So now I need to worry about 6 and 5. 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. The first number that both 5 and 6 go into is 30. So my LCM, or LCD, lowest common denominator, is 30x. What times 5x gets me 30x? Well, I'd be missing a 6. I'm missing a 5, and I'm missing a 10x. Because 3 times 10x gives me 30x. 6 times 5 gives me 30. I already have the x. 5 times 6 gives me 30. Or, if you wanted to, you can multiply by all 3 of these on each one of these. It's up to you. It just depends on how big of a number you wanted to multiply. So if you didn't want to find the LCD, like I've been doing, you could multiply each fraction by 5x times 6x times 3, but you got to be careful because if you don't pay attention, x's are like extra work that you don't need. So in my work, I'm going to have a single x. If you do it with this, you're going to have x's that add up to work out. It's just not that bad. Your choice. But if I multiplied this times each one, you could see how the denominators would cancel out as well. It doesn't matter how you do it. So I will do it this way and show that real quick. So I would have a 6, I would have a 5, and I would have a 10x. Lainey, quieter please. So this would have a 2 equals 1 plus 3. So I'm working with this number. This is how I've been doing these problems. So this would be 18 plus 5 equals 20x. 23 equals 20x. Divide by 20. X equals 23rd 20th, or approximately. Or actually equals, sorry, it does terminate, 1.15. Now, I'm going to do it the other way, because I do have some students that like that way, so I am going to show it. So, rewrite my fractions over here. So I have 3 over 5x plus 1 over 6x equals 2/3. And I'm giving myself some room so I can make sure I can write things out. So I'm going to take each number times 5x times 6x times 3. Um, 5x times 6x times 3. So canceling, 5x cancels with 5x, 6x cancels with 6x, 3 cancels with this. Oh my goodness, my head is killing me. I apologize. So, when you do this, you're going to get 3 times 6x times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9 times 6 is 54. I'm just going to double check on my calculator. 3 times 3 times 6, 54x, plus 15x equals 2 times 5 times 6, so 2 times 5 times 6, 60x squared. 54 plus 15 is 69, so this is 69x equals 60x squared. It's not a bad problem. You just have to get x's on the same side and pay attention. So this now becomes 60x squared minus 69x equals 0. You now, I'm going to move this. Thought I was going to have room doing it this way, but I'm not. It's okay. It's okay. We'll just redo this problem. Alright. So now, I would need to factor out a common number between these. So I'm going to factor out a 3, x. 20x minus 23 equals 0. Solve the first one, 3x equals 0, x equals 0. Okay, x can't equal 0, so it's not a solution. Solve the other one, 20x minus 23 equals 0. And then you see that this gets you right back to where I already was. So this is 20x equals 23, and then you get your answer of 23/20. X cannot equal 0, so, like, don't get me wrong, this method's cool and quick in some cases, but sometimes it's not as quick and easy. So that's why I always do LCM LCDs. Alright, let me get back F here. Sometimes your values of what you have to multiply by, you kind of have to multiply by everything, but in the end, don't get me wrong, it's just whatever makes you happy. Getting common denominators for me is always easier because I'm using less math and I get to do way quicker work. But it's not always the most fun. And sometimes I like to do things hard to just have fun, and I'm not going to lie on that one. So I have 3y, 5y, and 2. So my LCM is going to be a y. And out of these numbers, the first multiples of 5, because 5 is my largest, I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. The first one that they all multiply into is 30. So my LCM is 30. So what times 2 gets me to 30y? It's going to be 15y. 5y, take it times 6, 3y, take it times 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 10, 6, and 15y times my original problem. So I got 4 plus 2 equals 3. So that's going to be 40 plus 12 equals 45y. 52 equals 45y. Divide by 45, divide by 45. Y equals 52 45ths. Should have wrote that in green. I've been doing all this in green, like at the very end. Pomeroy, come on. Divide by 45. It's going to be like psychedelic. So doing that part, 52 divided by 45 is approximately 1.15, and it repeats. So plug it in and check. I didn't plug it in and check on the top one because it's showing both things, but I did check the answers, and that is the answer. So 4 over 3 times 52 45ths plus 2, 5 times 52 45ths equals 3 halves. So, in my calculator, this is how I would do it. I would go 4 divided by 3 in parentheses times 52 divided by 45, enter, plus 2 divided by parenthesis 5 times 52 divided by 45, enter, and I get 1.5. So that's my answer, and then up here, the 23rds, this is my answer. So that's part 1's video. The next part will be of word problems. Okay, so we have this word problem. Sarah has 10 pounds of dried fruit selling for $6.25 per pound. She wants to know how many pounds of mixed nuts selling for $4.50 per pound. She needs to make a trail mix selling for $5 per pound. So what we're going to do is make a chart. So when you read word problems, you need to make a chart. Okay, so dried, mixed, trail, pounds, price, total. So in the word problem, it says that I have 10 pounds of dried fruit at $6.25, so the total of that is $62.50. Mix, I don't know how many pounds of mixed nuts I need or have yet, so I'm going to put M, because that's what it told me to use. I want to sell it, or I'm selling it at $4.50 per pound, so this would be $4.50 M. The trail mix is these two combined, so this would be 10 plus M. I'm going to sell it for $5 a pound, and so this total would be 50 plus 5M. And that's by distributing this through. This last column here is how you write your equation. So you have 62.50 plus 4.50M equals 50 plus 5M. And then all you do is solve that. So minus 4.50 minus 4.50, these are M's, minus 50 minus 50, you get 12.50 equals 0.5 M, divide by 0.5, divide by 0.5, you would need 25 pounds. Okay, this is A, the purple part is B, the third part, C, is the solving part. Okay, the next question that we have is a wind question. So Alicia's average speed of riding her bike is 11.5 miles per hour. She takes a round trip at 40 miles. Her first leg of the trip with the wind is 1 hour and 20 minutes. Against the wind is 2 hours and 30 minutes. So we're going to write an expression. So grabbing my green. So this is number 3. So we have a round trip. Okay? We have with wind and against. It's a round trip of 40 miles, so that means each leg is 20 miles. Okay? This was done in 1 hour and 20 minutes. This was done in 2 hours and 30 minutes. What they want to know is what's the wind speed. Okay? So when I go with the wind for those 20 miles, I traveled at 11.5 miles per hour. Because these are my average. But when I was with the wind, so the wind was pushing against my back, I went faster. So the wind helped me. When I was going against the wind slowed me down. So I am going slower. Okay? So the way that we set this up is each leg of the trip, you have your total miles divided by your, so miles divided by your speed, which is 11.5 plus x. So this is the first leg. And I have 20 divided by, the 11.5 minus x equals, this would be my total trip. So now my total trip is it's easy, but it's based on your time. So if I add these two times together, my total trip was 3 hours and 50 minutes. However, it can't be in 2 different times, so I'm going to just put this in 2 minutes. This is a total of 230 minutes. And then my speed is in per hour, so I'm going to take my total, 230, divided by 60, because I'm doing speed per hours. Okay? Simplifying this out, I get 20 over 11.5 plus x plus 20 over 11.5 minus x equals 23 over 6. So my LCM is going to be 6 times, oops, put that backwards. 6 times 11.5 plus x and 11.5 minus x, because none of these are shared. So I'm going to take this one here, because that's 11.5x, so I'm missing my 6 and my 11.5x, so I'm going to take 11.5 minus x times 6. The next one I'm going to have 11.5 plus x times 6. And on the last one, I'm just going to have the 11.5 minus x and 11.5 plus x. Okay? The cool thing about those is those are going to be difference of squares, so they cancel out. So it's not too bad. It's bad, but it's not too bad. 20 plus 20 equals 23. So in my calculator, I'm going to take 20 times 6 times 11.5, because that's going to be the same for both of these. So 20 times 6 times 11.5 gives me 1380. And then 20 times x is negative 20x times 6 is going to be negative 120x. Plus, since these are all positive, I'm going to have 1380 plus 120x. Distributing equals 23 times, I actually need to multiply this out, so 11.5 squared is 132.25, and then the middles are going to cancel out, so I'm going to put minus x squared. Okay, simplify this a little bit more. 1380 plus each other gives me 2760. These cancel out, equals 23 times 132.25, 3041.75 minus x, oops, minus 23, because I got to distribute 23 to that. minus 23x squared. So I'm going to subtract 41.75 minus 3041.75. Negative 23x squared equals negative 281.75 divided by negative 23. I get 12.25 equals x squared. Square root that. I get 3.5 equals x. It's plus or minus, but that plus or minus, it's just 3.5. So I had the plus answer, so I am adding speed. Oops, can't see that. I apologize. I was not moving my paper up. So divided by negative 23, took square root. But the only one I care about is just x equals 3.5. Because wind speed, we'll just do it as exactly what we had, because in the original problem we already counted for subtracting and minusing. Alright, last one that I have for you is a car problem. So I'm going to read you the problem and I'm going to work through it. So Kendall and Shandy wax cars. Kendall can wax a particular car in 60 minutes and Shandy can wax the same car in 80 minutes. They plan on waxing the same car together, how long it would take. So the way it works out, I'm just going to talk through this and then I'll solve it, is how much time does it take Kendall to complete 1 minute of the car? If she works for 60 minutes, 1 out of 60, because her rate is 60. If she worked X minutes, it would be X divided by 60. Same thing with Shandy. Shandy will have 1 out of 80 minutes, because her or him speed, I'm sorry, there is no gender, I cannot assume, so their speed is 1 over 80, and how much Shandy will complete in X minutes, X over 80. So what you do is they're going to work together. So Kendall and Shandy are going to wax 1 car, so their speeds are how much time it takes them to get done, and that's what we're solving for. So with that equation, I have x over 60 plus x over 80 equals 1. Okay. You could take 60 times 80 and multiply everything by 2400, or you can multiply by 240. Either one, the first number that they both multiply into is 240, or you could do not 24, you could do 2400. Actually, you could do 4800 if you take and actually multiply 6 times 8 and not just go to 2400. All 3 of these would work, but I'm going to use 240 because that's smaller. So I'm going to show what it looks like multiplying by that, because I do have some division that would happen. So 240 times x plus 240 times x equals 240 times 1, because I'm going to just take everything times 240. My original problem had 60, 80, and there was nothing here underneath that car. So this simplifies. Divide that out. I get 8x. Nope, can't count. Oh my gosh, Pomeroy. 4x. I was doing the 480. Plus 3x equals 240. 7x equals 240. Divide by 7. X is approximately 34.3 minutes. So it would take them a total of 34.3 minutes to work together. That's not exactly half time for each of them, and there's like no average that you can really do, so you got to be kind of careful with what you assume you can do. You got to set it up that way.